All right, I am now recording. Great. So I'm going to try, we'll try this, and I'm going to share my screen. So the first thing I plan to do before talking too much about Module 3, which is listening and speaking tools, that is what we'll talk about today. But before we do that, I want to show you some of the features of Jitsi and also give some background. I talked a little bit about this on Tuesday. But the reason I started to use Jitsi originally is that some teachers could not use Zoom or did not like Zoom for one reason or another. 40 minutes was not enough time. There are many, many reasons this might be an issue, right? So I'm going to share my screen, and you can see I'll show you some of the different features you may not have noticed yet. Okay, so. All right, I'm sharing my screen now. The first thing I'll show you is if you notice that our camera quality is not so good, it's probably because of this LD at the top. It says I'm viewing a low definition video. I can change that if I click on these three dots in the right corner, okay? Manage video quality. Now for myself, my internet is not so great, so I was keeping it on low definition or standard, but we can actually go to high definition if we have strong internet and see and hear each other better, okay? I can also go full screen if I want to, or I don't have to, right? Other features here, I can do a live stream on YouTube, okay? I can record, I can share a YouTube video. So if I click this as an example, I could just put a YouTube link in here. And to do that, just to show you how this would work, maybe if I go to TED Talks, right? We were talking about TED the other day, about a week ago. If I just take any of these, right? I don't even know what this one's about, but all I need is the link, right? And then I can actually go to this, share a YouTube video, put that in there, and I can share this. Oh, it has to be a YouTube video. I'm sorry. I made a mistake there. Okay, that's fine. I'll find any YouTube video, and we can do it like that. That's fine. But anyway, you get the point. Maybe I'll be able to. Here we go. Okay, my son really likes this Three Cats, right? We wouldn't watch that together, but I can actually I can find any video if it's some kind of educational video, and I can actually share this here. That's going to actually play the video for us here. Pretty cool that I can do that, right? Okay. So right, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to stop sharing that. That's fine. Okay. Stop YouTube video. There we go. I've removed it. Okay. And okay, so those are some of the features I've got. I've got some other features too. I can mute everybody. Now, are there problems with Jitsi in a way for teachers? Yes. What is the problem? Usually as a teacher, it's good if I can mute everyone, but everyone has this power. So your students could also mute everyone, right? So this is a challenge. We kind of have to trust our students not to do that, right? If I click on settings, I've got a lot of different stuff I can do here. I can put my name in, my email if I want to, if that's something that's important. If we have a meeting that we want to set, I can actually do this using the calendar function, okay? Everybody starts muted. Everybody follows me. That means they all look at my camera. We'll actually do that for today. Okay. And so there's a lot of different things I can do. This is also nice. If our students are all supposed to speak at different times, we can actually see not only who's on the call, which is very nice, but how long they've talked for, okay? So in today's session, I'm not so concerned about who's talking the most or anything, but sometimes that might be very useful for us. Okay, it says the cartoon is still continuing. Ooh, that's a problem. Okay, let me see if I can. That should not have happened. It might be my internet connection. Let me see. I'm gonna connect with my other internet. That should help us. It'll be much faster that way. Okay, I should be back. Hopefully you've got that. I'm going to turn on my video. There. Okay, my internet should be much better now. I'm on data, so that should be faster for us. Let's see what it says. Okay, good. Hopefully the video is not still sharing. I'm sorry about that, Fideros. Hopefully that's not an issue for much longer. Okay, so I just want to show kind of what else I've got going on. It should be much faster now. So other things we can do, you see that we've got a really nice chat function over here, actually with lots of different emojis. We really don't need all of these, but if students like an idea or dislike an idea, this might be useful as well. There's a share screen over here, which is quite nice. I can actually share different things in my Chrome tab as well. Okay, so like as an example, if I wanted to share a website, I could do that. I'm just sharing my screen, or I will be in a moment. But there's a lot of different things that I can do here, okay? So what do I like about Jitsi? Why are we even using this right now? It's first off very, very secure. So no one's going to be able to steal your information. They would have to have this link that you had to enter to get into here to access this at all. So Zoom is actually also more secure than it used to be. But the problem there is Zoom's company can actually take the data. The data here has what is called end-to-end encryption, which means that the information is completely secure on both ends. The organization that created the Jitsi program, they don't have our information or what we're talking about either. Okay, so only us, only me because I'm recording it as well. Okay, so that's one thing I like. Another thing I like is that even if we do have some connectivity issues and there are problems with internet connection, the truth is there's no limit on how many users we can actually have on a call at the same time, which is pretty great. And there's no limit on time. So if you're using Zoom and you like it, but you don't like 40-minute limits, this might be a good option for you, okay? All right, so I'm going to start sharing my PowerPoint presentation now. We'll go to some other stuff later as well. Let me share, I think I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if this works. Hopefully this isn't a problem for us. That looks good, right? Okay, so can you see my PowerPoint? Hopefully we can see a PowerPoint. This says MOOC engagement number 6, listening and speaking tools. I'm not super familiar with Jitsi, so I'm going to make sure you can see this. Let me check the chat here. Great, wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to share this now. Module 3, I think, is a really good one. We've got a lot of really great listening and speaking tools. And my plan is just kind of to share some ideas with you today. I get emails sometimes from some of our participants. Remember that you can always email me. This is my email address. You'll be receiving an email from me shortly after this meeting. I know sometimes it takes me a couple of days to send emails to you. I am sorry about that. I get really busy. Also just being a parent and everything at home. But I'll try to get this to you as soon as I can. Okay? So, the agenda for today. Using Jitsi versus using Zoom, we've kind of already talked about that. I'm happy to answer more questions about that if you would like. But what I like about Jitsi, you've probably noticed too, it's very user-friendly. All we needed was a link, so I could share that link with students. If I need to know who's coming ahead of time, I could create a Google form, which is what I did to check attendance today, right? And so that's kind of nice, right? But we can talk more about that if you'd like. I want to talk a little bit about a program that I've mentioned in the past that the MOOC actually mentions, but never goes into great detail on. That's Purdue Owl. Owl is the online writing lab. So I'll be talking a little bit about that website today, features, and then activity extensions that we could use from there as well. Okay. Then, of course, we'll get into Module 3, the listening tools that are available there, the speaking tools that are available there, and then some presentation tools as well. Okay. So first thing, Jitsi versus Zoom. We've talked a little bit about this. Limitations, much better in Jitsi. Okay. Cost, obviously much better. There is no cost for Jitsi ever. It's completely open source. I am not very good at IT, computer technology, this kind of programming and stuff. But if you are, this is an open source program, which means that we can modify it and change it in any way that we would want. So that's kind of nice. Okay, we've talked about different features. I think if anything, it's easier to use than Zoom. Zoom's pretty easy too. And so if you think about this right now, you've been in here for a little bit. Which one of these would be better for you? Do you prefer Zoom? Are you looking for alternatives to Zoom? Does Jitsi seem like a good way to go? If you're using a different alternative, what do you like about it? Right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide. Oh, nope, that's not what I wanted. Go back here. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. No, I'm not. Get out of this, though. I'm going to check our chat. All right. So is everybody feeling pretty good about using Zoom? Are you looking for alternatives? The last group I was with, a lot of people actually did not like Zoom very much. That's kind of why I was reaching out with these other programs. But if you would like, if you're feeling good about it, I see Tatiana says, yeah, this is pretty good. That's cool. And maybe other people think so too. You're welcome to try this one. Just remember, you've got to use Google Chrome. Some other search engines actually don't work with Jitsi. Okay? All right. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Purdue Online Writing Lab, Purdue Owl. I'll take us to that website in a moment. I'll also share it in the chat, okay? But before we get there, I just want to give you kind of a brief preview of what I like about Purdue Owl, okay? So the first thing, the reason I know about this website originally is that it saved my life when I was a graduate student. I had to cite sources. And so this is kind of probably the most important website on the internet for information, up-to-date information about how to cite sources correctly, okay? But there's other stuff too. Lots of great stuff about language, about grammar, and different features of the English language, okay? Really wonderful stuff about resumes and CV writing. I'll share that with you in just a moment as well. Advice for fiction and nonfiction writers. Some really fun stuff that I've used there as well. And so I'm going to get into an example here in a moment. But before I do, let's go to the Purdue Owl website. Okay. So I'm going to get us there first. And I'll send this link to you guys in the chat. Okay. All right. So here we are. I'll send this link to you in just a moment. But we've got a lot of different stuff on here. What you really want to notice right away are these subheadings, right? So if I go to research and citation, this is probably the place that I noticed first on the website. I've got all the different styles of citation. I know that there are different styles in the Russian language speaking world that are commonly used. I don't know that those are here. However, for Western countries, a lot of times we'll use, especially English teachers, we will use MLA. Sometimes linguists use one called APA. Okay, so these are the two that are probably the most common. I use MLA generally. And so what I like about this especially is the formatting and style guide. And if I go here, I can see basically how to cite anything I want to, okay? Let's say I'm trying to cite a book in my text. Here I get information about how to do that. It's on the right-hand side, right? So getting page numbers at the end or when to get a name at the end like this. And so this has pretty much, you wouldn't read through this website. That's not really the way to use it. This is more of a guide once you've got a report and you want to make sure you're citing your electronic sources correctly, your books correctly, this, right? Also, if you just want to see what a sample page looks like, you can do this here too. So here, I've got a sample page over here of what that would look like, right? What a works cited page should look like over there. Okay, I've also got an example of a sample paper. Now this is downloadable, so if I wanted to look at this later, I could. But it's got all notes about why the margins look the way they do, why we're citing the way we are, different places, why the page numbers in the upper right corner, everything. So if you want to format correctly in a very up-to-date way, this is the best website that I can think of to do that. Okay? And check the chat. Looks like we're good. Okay. If there are any comments, you let me know in the chat. I'll be going back to check sometimes. Okay. So this is one thing on the Purdue Owl website. All right. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to give you guys that link now. There we go. Okay. Seems like the internet's working a lot better now that I'm using my phone, right? That's great. Okay. Some other stuff that is good for us. That I've really liked to use before. If I go to the Purdue Owl here, subject-specific writing, okay, how to write in literature, writing in engineering, creative writing. All right, so whatever our field is, maybe you have students or colleagues who are doing some professional writing. They have guidelines and tips for each of these, right? Also tips for people who are doing English as a second language, right? Including tips for ESL teachers, okay? So that's pretty great. One of the best things is probably just to look around this website yourself. But there's a couple things that I've used in here before. One of them is a really nice comparison of fiction and nonfiction writing. Here, let's see. I'll go to pitfalls for, so this is like mistakes that we can make, right? And so I've used this before to talk about summary versus scene, how we can create kind of compelling or interesting introductions to grab someone's attention, just like a movie would do, right? Another part of this that I really like is they have lists of different grammatical points like this one. If I go to transitions, okay, here, I've actually got a list of different transitions categorized by what they do. So transitions are words and phrases that connect one idea to another. They show the relationship between those ideas. And so, as an example, words that would show the relationship between two things as being an additional thing is that we have and, again, and then, show, right? And so I've got that with all of these, right? So to repeat something, if I want to use these phrases to repeat something. Okay, so how would I use this? That's all great, but how would I use any of this? It's excellent for 10th and 11th grades. I agree. I especially use this, actually, Zainab, thank you for pointing that out. I especially use this with high school students who are going to be applying to universities. I try to get them ready using these materials. So what would I do with this, right? Well, I actually take exactly that list I just showed you, these transition words, and I use those in a PowerPoint. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. Okay, I would start my students off by having them do some storytelling. Now, I've taken these pictures. I guess I should actually, let me get out of this for a second. Sorry, guys, I'm realizing I want to move around a second here. I'm going to go to the Learning English website, okay, and not this article, sorry. Down here, this is that Voa Learning English. We've looked at this many, many times. But I'm going to go to the day in photos, right? And so the activity that I'm going to show you combines two different resources. It combines these photos. Remember that these are just new updated photos that are put on the VOA website every day. Okay, no descriptions necessarily. There's just a short caption. I remove the captions, but I take those photos and then I'm combining those with this list of transitions from the Purdue Online Writing Lab. That's what I've done to create this activity. This is for students who I need to help teach how to use transitions, okay? And so what I would encourage you to do when you start thinking about these different tools from our modules and just different tools that you're using in your own teaching anyway, something maybe not even from our sessions together, is think about how you could combine those to meet the needs of your students and engage them in fun and interesting ways. Okay, so this is just one example of how I would do this. I would have the students start a story. I would have them start maybe by saying a long time ago or once upon a time. These are kind of cliched introductions. So I don't usually have them. Cliche means that it is so common that it almost becomes kind of boring. I don't usually have students use cliches. I try to avoid them. For this activity, I think it's okay. I would have them start a story. So I might say something like this. Once upon a time, there was a powerful general named Gohar. And Gohar was the queen of her kingdom and also the general of a powerful army. Now, none of this has to be real, of course. All right? I need to now connect this story about Gohar, the powerful general queen, with the next picture. So now I would say something like, and these are all transition words connected to time, right? So previously, though, Gohar was not the general queen of her kingdom. Instead, she was a kindly woman who would take care of all the birds in the city. So I've used the word previously and continued the story. Students should use at least one of these words. This is a way to get comfortable with transition words. I don't worry if the story is right. I don't even necessarily worry about other grammar. Of course, it's important, but my focus is on transitions. I would connect it again. So here I'm using words for addition. What's more, Gohar was feeding the birds as well as the monkeys in the city. And the monkeys were her friend and decided that they wanted to do something to help her. Okay, so this is a silly activity, but you see what I've done. I've taken the Purdue Owl website. I've taken some of the days and photos. I've taken those things and I've tried to create an activity to get my students to work on transition words. Then what I would do, I have about 10 of those. I use one screen for each one of these transition categories, right? And then I would actually have them write a whole story using 10 different photos from the VOA day in photos. I'm not worried about what's right. I'm just worried about transition words. And then the students actually could share those stories with each other. You could do this on Zoom or whatever. Put them in breakout rooms if you want to. And the students need to listen to each other and identify the transition words that the other student used. This is a way to become very comfortable with transition words, but of course you could do this with anything, okay? I could use this with topic sentences. I could do this with, what else? Pretty much anything. There's lots of different materials that I could use, grammar materials that I could use from this webpage to do this activity. Okay, so I'm going to keep moving. Esl says she can't hear me, but other people seem to. Yeah, okay, I agree with Zainab here. Golshira, thank you for saying it's great. I hope it is. I do agree with Zainab here that the best thing to do is look through this stuff yourself, right? And so this is just one activity of many that we could do. I just want to show you how useful this site could be. Esl, I'm sorry you can't hear me. It may be sound on your end. I believe my audio is working. Okay, so let me go back here. This is just one of many. But then, of course, our session today was about listening and speaking tools, okay? And so there are many of these. They're all available on our Padlet. I'm going to make sure that you guys get this link, okay? But there's Voa Learning English, which is a great site. We'll talk a little bit about that today. TED Ed, many things, Esl Lounge, the Esl Lab, and those are the big listening tools, Okay, so if I go to the website here, that's it right there, actually. This is also it. Okay, I'll put this in our group chat right now. I'll send this in an email as well, but this has everything, the PowerPoint we're looking at, as well as links to all the material we're looking at here. Okay, so Voa Learning English, we've looked at this website before, but this is actually a really cool thing on the Voa Learning English website. This gets mentioned in our MOOC from this week's session. This is a pronunciation guide for students. I will never forget, I am an American, and in America we have presidential elections, and people need to know about world events in order to become popular with the voting population. The people who vote for them want to know that they know the names of different important figures from around the world. And one thing that every single candidate stopped with was let me go back here. Let's see if I can find this here. Oh no, I'm not spelling the name right. Let me see if I can do this. Browse by region. Here we go. I'm going to go to Iran. So I can actually search in here the name of the Prime Minister of Iran. Last name Ahmadinejad. Nobody could pronounce his name correctly, and this was considered a great embarrassment. So you could have your students do better than the future presidents of the United States, and I think that's a good goal, right? So if I go here, just to show you what I'm talking about, there it is. I actually have a list of all the important names, or many of the important names from different countries with pronunciation guides, okay? So as an example, all those people I was just talking about, they could have just looked here. They could have gone to this website.
Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
Okay, and so I can do this with anything, or at least with any region, right? So let's say I want to go to, I know I've got some Kazakhstani people on the call. Here I've got a list of important people from Kazakhstan, right?
Nursultan Nazarbayev.
Great. Okay. I could do this. I don't want to make anyone feel left out. So let's go to Kyrgyzstan. All right. Here I've got a lot of important Kyrgyzstani people. Okay. I don't actually know specific information about most of these people, or really any of these people. But there we go, right? I've got that there. Okay. I could do that also with Tajikistan. I know I've got a number of people here from Tajikistan. There we go. And so here I've got not everybody, of course, but the names of some very important people from Tajikistan. Also,
Dushanbe.
Okay, so I've got pronunciation guides. Great. Yeah, we're going to go to Esl Lounge next. Thanks, Zainab. Zainab, it sounds like you've had quite a lot of experience using some of these different tools. Would you like to talk a little bit about your experience with Esl Lounge and Esl Cyber Listening Lab? I'd be happy to hear what you've got to say about it. You can use your microphone if you want. If you don't want to, it's okay, but looks interesting.
Okay, Ben, I'm just, as you told me, this new technology, I'm just using all the resources that I have.
Sure.
And the most important that MOOC suggested us is that I can not look all the whole website in this maps. So I have some kind of approach on which way I can go. So in that case, you as a facilitator is a great, I'm sorry telling you as a tool for me especially, because I don't need to find something else because I have already have something. And I know that it works, and I know that you have done something else, and I am myself trying to create. You know, at the moment we are finishing our school, that is why there is no chance for me to do it, but I am doing with my own kids. My son is the 9th grade, and my daughter is the 4th grade, and we are doing some kind, I'm exploring with them. So I cannot say that I'm a kind of expert, but as you told us before, I am just playing around.
Great. I think that's what we need to do. The best way to learn is by playing around. In fact, I wasn't going to share this, but I'm going to share something with everyone here. Give me just a second. This is a tool that I only kind of discovered how much I liked by playing around. So hopefully you can see my screen. This actually didn't even come up today, but if you're looking for speaking activities, this came from one of the American English webinars that I participated in back on April 22nd. And it's a program called ChatterPix. Okay, now this is free for download for Android and iOS. And what it does, we can take a picture from anywhere. I could take photos from a book, of a person, an animal, a piece of furniture, it doesn't matter, and I can actually make that thing talk, okay? So my son is 5 years old, and it's actually just like Zeynep is saying, I was just trying to have fun. He was bored. I thought I would look for some fun activity for him, and he really loves sea creatures. So what we did was we took a couple of his books with sea creatures, and we're working on descriptive language. He's only 5 years old, so we don't have so much. But we took these pictures, and I'll show you what ChatterPix lets us do.
I'm big and fat.
Okay, I'm big and fat, right? Now this one.
I'm blue and yellow.
Okay, I'm blue and yellow. This one's probably my favorite.
I'm big and eat stingrays.
I'm big and eat stingrays. It's like a very cute shark, right? But in all seriousness, what this does is it lets us create a mouth on the picture, if you want to think of it that way, and then we can actually have something talk. So if you were working on captions, descriptions of pictures with students, or with your own children, and you wanted to work as a speaking activity that would be fun, this would be a great way to do it, right? To give you another example using this, here's a picture that I found from Voa Learning English, and I've actually made a ChatterPix with this. So maybe the assignment is come up with something that this woman would say on the phone. It looks like she's talking on the phone.
Hi, when you deliver the pizza, just look for the person sitting down with the coolest dogs in the city. You'll know where to find us.
Good. Okay, so I'm not a very funny person. You're probably funnier than I am, but this is the kind of thing we could do with ChatterPix, right? So it's a pretty fun activity, and just like Zeynep was saying, the reason I'm mentioning this right now is that this is something that I only found because I was just trying to have fun with my children at home, my son at home. Okay, so one of many things. I'll write the name of that in case anybody wants that. That's free ChatterPix, okay? So it requires a download. It's an app you have to download, but once you download it, it doesn't need any information or anything from you, and it doesn't require being online to use, okay? So fun one, yeah? If I go back here, I'm gonna go back to what we were doing. Voa Learning English. We've talked a little bit about that pronunciation guide, right? TED Ed. I've talked a little bit about this before. Let me see. Where's TED Ed? Is it on here? It should be. I hope I put it here. Maybe I didn't. Here it is. Great. TED Ed. And so what TED Ed, sorry, we have so much on the website that it gets easy to get lost sometimes. This is a good one. I want to say we've talked about this a little bit before. Maybe it wasn't actually something I talked about with you. If not, or if we did, I'll just quickly review it, okay? So these are TED Talks that have been created, or turned into, rather, lesson plans for students made by teachers. Now, you can actually make one of these yourself if you want to, and your students can actually do talks too. That requires signing up, but it's free. It's all free. Okay, so maybe students are concerned about the COVID crisis. They could look at this video about ventilators, right? So it's going to be a short video. All of these videos are delightfully short. So this one's only 5 minutes and 41 seconds long. I like to usually, I think I talked about this with you before, but I like to generally do this 3 times. So I would do it the first time with no subtitles at all. The second time I would do it with English subtitles. And the third time, I would show it again, probably with Russian subtitles or even Kazakh, Tajik, or Kyrgyz, depending on if the video had those subtitles already. Okay, what this allows us for, students can do some note-taking, writing the key vocabulary, maybe trying to write the big idea of a video that they watch. But then we also have questions that have been created by teachers, okay? And so here it starts out with multiple choice, but then there are some questions that are short answer, okay? And there are some questions that are kind of open-ended, right? Then, if you want to do more, there's usually some recommended reading and also discussion questions, okay? So there's lots of these videos. This is TED Ed, okay? And that's one that I wanted to show you as well. Great. So Ksenia says that you use Khan Academy to practice listening skills. I know that Khan Academy was very popular in Tajikistan when I was there, or at least I'd heard of it. Ksenia, do you mind? I've actually never used Khan Academy. Could you talk a little bit about how you use that? I mean, they have videos with lesson plans, or is it just the videos, or just give us a little bit of detail on that? I'm kind of news to me.
Well, it's actually kind of course. You can sign up on a course and watch different videos according to the topic. So we watched with my students. We watched only one on art, and it was pretty similar to that education. You watch the video, you have some subtitles, you can turn them on or turn them off, it depends. And they have some follow-up questions on the course. That's pretty interesting.
That's great. That sounds really good. So that's Khan Academy, yeah? If you don't mind, maybe after our session, if you could email me the link to Khan Academy, I'd like to maybe share that on our webpage in case anybody's interested.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Great. Thank you very much. And so I was talking a little bit about note-taking. I realized I kind of hadn't shared this, or maybe I did earlier. I don't remember exactly. But this kind of note-taking sheet is what we would want, right? It doesn't have to look exactly like this. You could actually have the students write something out themselves, but a section for vocabulary, a section where they could write notes, and then maybe a brief summary, right? And so if you show a video multiple times, one time with subtitles, one time without, and kind of make it easier as they go, start out hardest. That way they can sort of grasp how much they actually understood, what they thought they understood but actually got wrong, and this kind of thing. And then again, you could do notes with the Russian subtitles, notes with English subtitles, and notes with no subtitles at all, right? So just one of many ways we could do that. Okay, good. As always, I'm running out of time. We've got 20 minutes still, which is good. I think we'll, at the very least, get through listening tools, probably most of the speaking tools. Okay, so there are a number of different programs that are very similar to the next ones I'm going to show you. Many things, Esl Lounge and Esl Lab. There are actually more than that, but this is kind of just how we'll get started with this. These are all pronunciation guides, by the way. Really cool ones. So VOA pronunciation. Sorry, we'll get to the many things and all that soon. This one, if I want to search, this is actually not just for English. This is in lots of different languages, right? So we're going to do this in English, okay? If I search pandemic, okay. Pandemic in 4 different pronunciations, right?
Pandemic.
Okay.
Pandemic.
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 Okay. And so I can actually choose if I want to do that with a British accent. We have 1, or an American accent. We have 3, right? But there's also translations. So this is kind of a cool program. This is very good if you have students who are in translation studies. I had a few people who were teachers in translations departments. And so this is a very good one in that regard, right? So there it is in Russian, right? So Forvo is a pretty cool website for that. It focuses on many different languages, not just English, okay? Moving forward with pronunciation. Here, let's see, we've got Google Translate, of course. I'm not going to get too into that one. It's sometimes incorrect, but usually works pretty well. Merriam-Webster Dictionary is a good one because it gives us language in context. That means we actually get to see the word used in the context of a larger sentence. So again, pandemic here, if I use this, okay, I get a definition, and then I also get sample sentences. The 1918 flu was pandemic and claimed millions of lives, okay? I get it as a noun, example sentences if I want. There we go, right? And so, and then also more recent stuff. So here's one from 2009, and here's one from just 2020. Obviously, it's a word being used often right now, right? Here's the word as an adjective as well as a noun, okay? So kind of a very good source for students who might need to know how to use a word in context. I know a lot of us are interested in preparation for IELTS or TOEFL. This would be a good one to use if you are worried about vocabulary acquisition. We'll talk more about vocabulary in a future session, but just something to keep in mind. Okay, then there's the thesaurus. If you don't know what a thesaurus is, I always tell my students it is not a dinosaur. A lot of people think it's a dinosaur just based on the name. This is a book or collection of synonyms and antonyms, words that are similar and words that are the opposite, right? And so synonyms and near synonyms for pandemic include these, right? Plague, epidemic, murrain, which I'd never even heard of before. Wow. And so pretty useful stuff, okay? So this is the Merriam-Webster Dictionary website, also on our webpage, okay? Last one before we get into some listening activities is Youglish. And we've talked about Youglish before, actually in that second session. But again, if you want words in context, you really can't do better than Youglish, okay? So here, I'm going to get some videos.
Patterns that could tell us when or where the next pandemic might strike.
Okay, this will actually take us to a number of different videos, including TED Talks, YouTube videos, and everything else. In fact, I've got 1,044 videos. I can go by different accents if I want to, and it'll show us a sentence in which it is used. If I go back...
Patterns that could tell us when or where the next pandemic might strike.
Now, maybe for my students, they say, could we slow that down? Right? Of course we can. I can go here to the speed.
Patterns that could tell us when or where the next pandemic might strike.
Okay. Then, let's say that was fine, but I want another video. I just click this next button.
Be prepared for outbreak of a pandemic or similar. And then
okay. And so I can go through all those different videos. I've got phonetic similarities here. If I'm looking for things that have very similar, the IC at the end, right? And then here I've got words nearby in the dictionary. And so I'm getting really good contextual language here. Okay. Cool. Yeah, there is a website also called Thesaurus.com. That's right. If we're looking for stuff about Thesaurus, that's excellent. Good point. Yes. Great. Okay. And so those are some of the pronunciation tools. Okay. Now I'm going to get into some of the listening tools. And there are many of these. We're not going to look at everything today, probably. Okay. But we'll look at these listening tools quickly. So this one's called manythings.org. Okay. I know that some of you have used this. Okay. If I go here, there's a lot of different stuff that we can do. I could actually listen to this video. I can kind of listen and read along with a book, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Right?
Chapter 1, Educating Huck.
Okay, so we're not going to do that right now, but I've got a lot that I could listen to. Manythings.org especially has some really good stuff for listening activities. Okay? Yeah, good. Listening, vocabulary quizzes, jokes, lots that we can look at. And again, playing with it yourself is probably the best thing to do. Okay? That's one. Another one is Esl Lounge. I don't like this one quite as much, I don't think. It has a lot of kind of paid functions on it, but there's some good stuff on here, definitely. If I go to the songs, this is actually really good. Students can kind of learn different songs and do this. It makes English kind of fun for us, right? So here's the lyrics, and then you would have to find the video on YouTube. But we've got kind of collections of different things as well. Okay? ESL Lab is a really interesting one. So here, listening activities. I can go to different texts. Let's say my students are at an intermediate level, so I'll click there. Here I've got listening quizzes on a wide range of topics. Okay? Maybe I want to teach them about getting ready for school, so buying school supplies, right? I haven't checked any of this. Now we're here, right? So here, pre-listening exercise, you can teach your students these idioms. And then I've got a listening activity.
Dad?
Yeah.
I need a few supplies for school, and I was wondering if...
Yeah, there are a couple of pencils and an eraser in the kitchen drawer, I think.
Dad, I'm in 8th grade now.
Oh.
And I need real supplies for my demanding classes.
Oh, so you need a ruler too?
Dad, I need some high-tech stuff.
Oh.
Like a calculator, a Palm Pilot, and a laptop computer.
Okay. And so the first answer would be that she needs a computer. But again, for students who are practicing for IELTS or TOEFL, or for any other listening test, this would actually be great practice, right? It's actually quite similar in some ways. Also good for anyone who's just generally trying to practice listening, okay? So let me check how we're doing. Yep, good, okay. And so this is really good stuff. There's lots of academic listening, which is good maybe for some of our students who have a higher level requirement, okay? University students, let's say, something like that.
Homelessness.
You'll notice, by the way, that all of these videos are 5 minutes or less. Most of them come from articles on VOA, so they're connected.
It's a concern in almost every place you go around the world.
Okay, and so I'm not going to play through this right now. Like Zainab was saying, and I agree completely, this is something to look at yourself later. But this is probably a very good program if you're trying to engage your students with listening activities later, okay? Now, there's some stuff on here that I don't necessarily love or need. As we learned in the module this week, accents are actually kind of a badge of pride. It usually means that you speak more than one language, which is kind of awesome. It just makes you more interesting. And so as long as we can understand you, you don't need a better accent. There's no such thing as a better accent. So I would avoid something like this, right? But the listening activities themselves, I think, are quite good. Okay? So that takes us, let's see where we're at. Yeah, that takes us through the various listening tools that we want to look at. Remember that we want to listen not only for accuracy, but also for fluency. This is also important when we come to speaking. So we want to get the words right, but we also want to be able to listen through something and get the big idea as well. So we can kind of teach those things separate from each other. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, I've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to move as much as I can, and whatever we don't get done, we'll do next time, okay? The next part was on speaking tools. And like I was just saying, accuracy and fluency both matter, and they should be taught separately. So here we've kind of got some of this stuff that we've already talked about. In terms of pronunciation, Youglish is a very, very good one. And what you could do with Youglish, you would actually give your students a word or a phrase. Let's say I'm going to go back to Youglish here so I can show you how I would maybe use this in a class, right? Let's say we're talking about pandemics, okay? And I go here, pandemic. I'm going to have my students listen to a couple of these. I'm going to have them go through and listen to a couple of these example sentences from several videos, right? And then their job is going to be to make, if I want to see, by the way, the beginning of this sentence, I can actually go back 5 seconds.
The way that antibodies are interested.
To see how the history is developed of these kind of things.
the disease data, I'm quite interested, and we hear a lot about immunization, the way that antibiotics will affect us on a global population, and that we might not globally be prepared for outbreak of a pandemic or similar.
Okay. And so I was just trying to get to the beginning of that sentence. But students would have to listen to a couple of these using Youglish, let's say, and then actually write a sentence using the word pandemic in context and record themselves saying it. So this way they can actually practice their pronunciation as well, right? So just one example of many what we could do with Youglish. Okay, Merriam-Webster, the same. Really good for pronunciation. Google Translate also. Forvo, remember, is very good, especially for if we're looking at translation, the ability to translate from one language to another. So those of us who have background languages in Kyrgyz or in Tajik or in Kazakh or in Russian, and many of our students probably also have Russian as a first language, this is very important to encourage them to use those languages when they can. That can be a tool for learning English and pronunciation better. Okay? All right, so that's those. Two more tools to use. One of them is the color vowel chart, which is a very cool thing that we can look at here. Just got a little bit of time, so I'm going to kind of quickly move through this. This is also linked on our website. So again, I would just recommend play with this over the weekend, have fun with it. This is the color vowel chart. So what this does, has anyone seen the color vowel chart before? Maybe we have, maybe not. I'll show you what this is. These phrases each cover one of the phonetic sounds that comes up in the middle of words, right? So in English.
I, white tie.
Okay, so there's I, white tie. That's kind of a long I, but there's also a short I.
Silver pin.
Okay, and so we've got this whole chart here. What I would like to do with this is give vocabulary to students, and then they would have to associate each one of those words that they get. Maybe they would use Youglish, let's say, to listen to the word, and then they would have to think, okay, that word, pandemic. Which one of these does pandemic fit into? Does it fit into gray day?
Gray day.
Well, no, it's more of an right?
Black cat.
Okay, so pandemic is a black cat word. So this is a good way for students to start to organize and kind of associate different phonetic sounds by the words that they're getting in context, right? So a very good tool for pronunciation, also for listening, and then later, of course, for speaking. It is true that better speakers are better listeners, okay? The last one to look at here is American English at State, and we have two things on American English at State to look at: learning American English and dialogues for everyday use. Okay, so give me a second. We're going to find these here. You'll notice that I've got a lot more on here that we haven't even looked at. I welcome you to look through that yourself and enjoy it. I can talk with you about anything that might be interesting. So here, dialogues for everyday use. You see the description is a collection of 30 situational dialogues that focus on a wide variety of communicative situations and natural encounters in English. This is a free downloadable text for you. It's a full textbook, 61 pages, okay? And so different language, right? Language for a telephone call, for a crowded theater. And so let's say I want to have my students practice how to introduce themselves formally. I would have one person do some role-playing as Margaret and one do role-playing as Mr. Wilson, okay? There are some language notes here, so they really need to focus on how do you do? And not just saying, how do you do? But also raising the voice at the end, right? I would really want to focus on that. If you say, how do you do? It's very different from, how do you do? One conveys more of a feeling of positivity, and the other one sounds kind of annoyed or not happy, right? And so we need to know the difference between these tones, intonation. So this would be a really good book for practicing those different dialogues, right? And if students want to know, again, how to pronounce some of these clusters of phrases, well, we could put those into Youglish or something else to practice that. So that's dialogues for everyday use, okay? One more to look at here. And get rid of that. We'll get out of this as well, okay? There's also, let's see, if I have it here. Okay, looks like that's about what I've got. I need to make sure I'm not missing something. Learning American English, okay? Let's see if I can get that up here. Oh, nope, that's not what I want. Here we go. Wrong website. Here we go. Okay. Okay. And so there's a resource in here called Learning American English, and I think it's probably in Teaching the 4 Skills. If I go to the speaking section, there's everything we were just looking at, right? And I can get all this for download just here, okay? Listening as well, books for English teaching, audio books if we want to listen along. And so really some great resources on the American English website as well, okay? Last thing to show you, okay, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next, okay? I want to show you 2 ways, if you're not familiar with it, that we can actually use presentation skills and tools in classes. So if your students, if you want to share a PowerPoint presentation, but they don't have good internet, you can actually record PowerPoints. This is actually a very interesting thing. I have to go here in my taskbar. I can show you how to do this if anyone's confused about it later. And I can actually record a slideshow. Then I can export it as a video. This would allow me to go through my PowerPoint. They wouldn't see me. My audience would only see the PowerPoint, but they would hear my voice. So I could actually create a PowerPoint presentation as a recorded session this way. Okay? Another tool that some people really like is called Prezi. And so what Prezi does, I think this is a video. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. Hold on. Yeah, great. So this will show you kind of how it works. And so we can actually kind of, I don't use Prezi very often, but I've had students who really like it. It's just another way graphically to show different presentations. And we can also record these as well, right? So this is a very attractive thing. Prezi has a paid function. There is a free version. You can't do as much with it, but it also exists. And some people really like Prezi. But again, I think the same as what I've been saying, the most important thing is to use whatever is most comfortable for you, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing now my screen, all right? So there we go. I'm back. Great. Okay, I'm back. And I think I've stopped sharing. I believe we're just all back together. Guys, we're going to meet again on Tuesday. I won't be on Jitsi. We'll be back in Zoom. We'll do some breakout sessions. And I'd like to see how can we use listening and speaking tools to engage your students. So whatever tools you've been using or with your kids at home, if you're not teaching right now, or just any way that you can at all, what kind of listening and speaking tools are you using? What lesson plan type stuff? If it's not a full lesson plan, that's fine. But what ideas do we have? What challenges are we facing? And we can actually help each other with that. Okay? I will send out an invitation, information about what we'll be doing, all the links, as well as this recorded session very shortly. Everybody, rakmiet. Next time you'll do the talking, not me. This is just my kind of laying out Module 3 for us. Okay? So until next time, have a good weekend. Okay? Rakmiet.
Bye, Ben. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Bye.
So I can't end this session. You'll just have to leave this session on your own. That's one interesting thing about Jitsi. I'm not in control. So
okay.
okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.